Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Princess State of Mind, where we talk about fiction, fairy tales, and the fairer sex. This is episode 2, and I'm Faith Moore, and I am really excited to have with me today Laurel Sprenger, who is an amazingly talented artist and clothing designer. She is known, probably most well known on Twitter as at Strangeland Elf or at Laurel in Arts. And she's also the artist that drew me as a Disney princess, which you can see
probably most
in
well known
my.
on
Oh,
Twitter
sorry,
as,
I'm talking in
Strangeland Elf.
this. Hold on, there we go. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, so I was like live myself. Okay, so anyway, she drew me as a Disney princess, which is like my dream come true, and so I'm really excited to have her here. Hi, Laurel. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
A pleasure. So I think if I had to pick one person on Twitter who might actually be a Disney princess, it would be you. And it's not just because you are a very talented artist and have impeccable fashion sense, but I feel like you tweet like a Disney princess. I feel like with kindness and love. And I think that that's kind of rare on Twitter. You know, Twitter has this reputation of being this kind of like outrage machine. And so I guess I was just wondering first whether Twitter for you is a positive place to be or a negative place to be.
Well, I think it's a mixture. I think when I see lots of negativity is when I feel most like I need to say something that will be positive and encouraging to people, because it's I think it just needs that. And so I think mainly my experience has been really nice and positive, and I've made lots of friends. So yeah,
I think it's funny. Like I hear that a lot too, because for me, Twitter has been a really positive place, and I feel like for a lot of people, it is a place to kind of make friends and meet people. Has that been your experience?
Yes. I've made lots of friends and met lots of people, and it's helped me in lots of ways to just express myself in ways I couldn't do otherwise.
Yeah, that's great. And I feel that from you. You know, I feel like a lot of people sort of are just, they're trying to own one another, quote unquote. And I feel like, but you are really genuine. And I just wondered if you have a particular outlook on life. Like how would you describe that? Because I get a sense of it from you, but I wonder if you can describe it.
Well, let's see. I think it's easy for me. I'm kind of, it's funny because I'm kind of a pessimistic person, but usually my view towards other people is that because I already know that everyone is going to be flawed and make mistakes and do stuff that I don't agree with or that's wrong. And so my view towards them is to I care for people despite that, and I love people because they were created by God, and I just try to remember that they're flawed and I am flawed too, and so I need to love them despite that, and I think that helps get a good view.
Yeah, that's amazing, and that really comes across. And I wondered, I want to talk about your artwork, and I just wondered if that's something that comes out in art for you, like that idea of people being flawed and also approaching them with love or from a Christian perspective. Is that something that you play out in your art?
Yeah, I like to try to sort of put the beauty of like humanity in it. So I like to capture someone who's very expressive. And I think it does sort of capture that sort of, yeah, I think I try to express that in my art.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I want to talk about your art. And if people haven't seen it, you really should. And I'm sorry that we're just on video right now, so we can't really show it to anyone. But go on Twitter and check out at Laurel Arts. And you can see, is it arts or art? I'm sorry, hold on.
I think it's arts, yeah.
Okay. You should check that out, and you can see what we're talking about. But I'm wondering, how did you get into art and clothing design and all of this? Is it something you've always done, or how did it come about?
Well, my grandmother, actually both of my grandmothers are kind of artists, and they sew. But yeah, especially my grandma on my mother's side, she did lots of painting, and I think since I was, as long as I can remember, 2 or 3, I've wanted to be an artist. So yeah, it was like when I was 3, I was like, I want to be an artist and a queen. And I've mostly been able to accomplish at least one of those things.
Yeah, you never know. There's still time. Um, but yeah, you definitely have accomplished being an artist. And uh, I'm wondering what your favorite things to paint or draw, or what your favorite subjects are.
I love to paint portraits of people. I've done several wedding pictures, paintings.
Mhm.
And I really love that because it shows. Yeah, I think it's it's very deep and meaningful, and so I do like to do people in situations with like emotions are visible, and so yeah, that's.
Yeah, I saw your wedding portrait of Michael Knowles when he got married, and I was going to actually ask you. I noticed that you have gotten a lot of attention from Michael Knowles and also like the whole Daily Wire team, and I wondered how that came about for you.
Well, I don't know. One time, I guess I don't know if I said something that like Michael Knowles thought was funny, but he followed me, and so or maybe I don't know. I decided to do some paintings of him and stuff and other people at the Daily Wire. And so I think, yeah, I think that just sort of, yeah, I really don't know how it came about, but it did. So pretty cool.
And how do you feel about that attention? I mean, are you a fan of the Daily Wire and the team?
Yes, I am. Yeah, I yeah, I have been for a few years, so that was really nice. But it's actually helped me a lot get a lot of followers, which has helped get a lot of attention to my art and other stuff. So it's been really nice actually.
Yeah, those things tend to be really helpful and really useful. So
Yeah.
I'm really glad for you that happened. Well, cool. So I think I probably would want to own every single item of clothing that you ever designed or that you ever showed us that you designed. And I noticed that a lot of your designs and also the clothes that you wear are sort of they sort of harken back to the past, and different time periods in the past. And I was wondering, do you have a time period that you wish that you lived in, and a time period that you most admire the fashion from?
Yeah. Well, I love the 40s fashion and lots of um the aesthetic of the 40s in lots of ways. And so, although I'm not sure I'd want to live in the 40s necessarily because there's a lot of stuff going on, but I do really like that time period. I also really like medieval clothing, but that's a little harder to pull off.
Yeah, me too. I mean, have you ever made anything in particular that would be medieval?
Yeah, well, I made a medieval dress one time from a pattern. Um when I was maybe 14, 15. That one's not quite as good, but I designed one that's sort of has medieval qualities to it. Um, last year or a few years ago, I made it and I wore it for Halloween. one year last year, and it was really fun to make because it was really fancy and I felt like a princess.
Yes. Well, that is my next question. So I know that you and I share a love of Disney princesses. And have you ever designed any Disney inspired clothing?
Yes. I've designed some. I haven't sewed anything, but I was wanting to do one thing. I've been wanting to do is sort of do the princess dresses sort of in a style that could be worn today, sort of maybe like something that's 40s or, that so that people, so I could wear something that's inspired by that. But I haven't got around to doing that yet.
Basically, the Faith Moore wardrobe, which I would want to purchase every item of. That sounds amazing. Yeah, so I think that would be really cool. And I think, I mean, there's already so many items of clothing with like Disney princess things on them. It would be amazing to wear something that really was like the dress that you could wear today. Um, I mean, what do you think about people wearing fashions of the past? Do you think, I mean, do you do that in your regular life? I mean, what do you think about sort of wearing pieces that people wouldn't necessarily, that would catch someone's eye because it is from the past, or it's not particularly in style or whatever? I mean, would you wear that, and what would you say to someone that was kind of like weirded out by that?
I There's definitely stuff I wear. I'm obviously wearing a Santa hat right now, so I don't really have like. There's lots of stuff I'd wear that most people would just be like, okay, like, and just normal clothing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I do really enjoy putting sort of old fashioned and things into my clothing. I haven't got too far in the past because it's a little harder to get away with that. But I want to try sometime. Uh, but I do think for the most part, when I have worn things like fascinators and other things, I've got lots of compliments from all sorts of people. People my age, lots of old people like it, which is you know, people just walking down the street in shopping malls and whatever. It's just I'll get lots of compliments. So it makes me feel less self-conscious about wearing it because I haven't got much like weird many weird looks. Although little girls often stare at me, so I don't know if they're just like, oh, a princess or what.
They probably think you're a Disney princess. So what would you say to someone who really wishes that they could, put on that fascinator or whatever it is, but is afraid to? What would you say?
I would say to start with something small. And then, once you get comfortable with that, work your way up. But it's really important if you wear something that stands out to look comfortable in it. So you don't look, because if you look uncomfortable in it, then it looks weird and out of place. But if you own it, then it just looks like part of your style.
That is excellent advice that I will now take. So back to Disney princesses, my favorite subject. Do you have a favorite, and who is it, and why?
Yes, I like Belle.
Yay, Team Belle.
Aurora used to be my favorite because I liked pink.
Fair.
But she wore a blue dress most of the movie. I was kind of angry about that.
Yeah.
But Belle, I really like. I think I relate to Belle in lots of ways because she seems like the type who she's able to see the good in people or read people and know and be caring and gentle even towards the beast and bring out the good in him. And I relate and aspire to lots of that because
I think that's really great how you just put it, that she can see inside of people, because that's how I have always sort of described her, is that she has a superpower that no one else in the movie has, which is that she sees the inside of people and everyone around her sees the outside. So she knows that Gaston is a bad guy, even though he looks like this kind of like jock character. And she knows that the Beast is a good guy, even though he looks like a beast. And would you say that you have that knack too?
I think so. I usually feel like I'm able to read people pretty well. Probably not quite as good at that because that's a story.
Fair.
But I feel like I'm able to read people and see what their good qualities are, and often able to see what they, the negative side as well. But I don't usually focus on that as well, but it's usually something I notice about people, I think.
Mm-hmm. Who's your least favorite Disney princess?
Well, it's let's see, it's probably Merida.
I'm with you
um,
there.
yeah, I watched that movie. I just really didn't like that movie. She just isn't. Yeah, I was very disappointed because I wanted to like it because it was Scottish princess, big red hair, and I thought that was cool. But yeah,
What did you hate about it?
well, it's been a while since I watched it, but I didn't like her. Um, I didn't like that. She just was very immature, and she didn't seem a lot more mature by the end. It just seemed like, well, maybe she has a better relationship with her mother, who's not forcing her to marry now. But other than that, you don't see much growth in her. And, you kind of feel like, oh, she was right, even though she went about it the wrong way.
Right. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, and that she is kind of more immature, even as she is kind of held up as a more feminist or empowered princess. And I was wondering if you have thoughts about this kind of trend toward quote unquote feminist princesses and away from the traditional fairy tale tropes of the past. Do you have a sense of that, or how you feel about that?
Yeah, I I I don't understand. I mean, I do in the culture, but I don't really understand it because it seems to me that the older princesses were a lot more their own, and the newer ones they've tried to do more feminist stuff. They kind of strike me as this sort of flat, and they're just sort of, they're not as original seeming. They all kind of seem the same in a way, the way they talk and the way that they're, oh, I'm so tough, and they don't have the vulnerability and the same kind of things that, and they just don't seem natural.
So what would you say? I could totally agree with you. And what would you say makes a Disney princess? Because I think that's kind of been in the news a lot lately, especially with the Wreck-It Ralph sequel that came out with they have all the princesses in it. And I'm wondering, because now everybody's sort of questioning what does it mean to be a princess, and I think Disney and a lot of kind of film critics and feminist commentators kind of want to redefine what a Disney princess really is. And I wondered if you have a sense, how would you describe a Disney princess?
Well, I think, of course, they're supposed to be role models for girls, and they um they envelop the values that are important for girls, especially going from a girl to a woman. It's important to they characterize these values and these and I think, and so you see it's like Snow White. um she's she's often the one criticized the most, but she's um very good at doing what she does, and she doesn't need help really, but except she needs a place to stay. And so she helps the dwarves, and it's not really something, and I don't know, but I think that with these print you see a lot of things that the feminine is very good, the values of femininity. I think that's what they envelop, yeah, and what they include, yeah.
Yeah, no, you're making an excellent point, because I think there is a sense now that those feminine values, or just the concept of femininity, is somehow anti-feminist. But really, and I think this is what you're saying too. But really, women are feminine because they're women. So the things that the earlier princesses like Snow White or Cinderella can teach little girls is how to be feminine and empowered at the same time. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. I got a little bit confused my thought.
No, but you're right. I totally agree with you.
But yes, exactly. I think, yeah, they are very, very, very good. They're very empowered in that. What they're not just looking for a prince. That's not all they're doing the whole movie. They're not just waiting around. They're active, and they're working towards what they want.
You're so right, and I totally agree with you about Snow White, because I think she gets such a bad rap. But like you said, she solves her own problem. Like, a man doesn't come save her from the woods; she saves herself. So I totally agree with you there. I wanted to go back for a second to Beauty and the Beast and ask you what you thought about the live action remake with Emma Watson.
Yeah, I didn't like it very much. Most of my family doesn't understand why exactly. But I really struggled, because I don't think they understood Belle, and that her feminist, the part about her was not that she was tough and this brave person who didn't cry. It's
Right.
that she was brave despite being scared, and despite being losing everything she had. She was able to show that, and it doesn't make her less brave. But in the live action movie, she doesn't say, she says to her dad she's not scared, and it makes that moment where she gives up her freedom less potent, because she just said she wasn't scared, instead of in the old one where she's visibly scared.
That is such a good point, because I think that really speaks to something that I think is a kind of like misunderstanding that Disney and some of these critics, etc., have now, which is that the only way that you can be brave and empowered is if you kind of act like this warrior, and almost like a man, sort of like a man. I mean, a man in that situation would probably also be frightened, but he would probably do more to try to kind of hide that, or fight back in some physical way. But I think you're absolutely right that the thing that makes Belle brave in that moment is that she is really frightened, but she sees that this is a sacrifice that she has to make. So that's a really interesting assessment about the movie. I kind of I liked the movie because I was so afraid I was going to hate it, that I kind of was like pleasantly surprised. And actually, the part that I really liked was what they did with the Beast, because I thought they kind of changed his character in an interesting way. What did you think about the Beast in that movie?
Yeah, I didn't really have any problems with the Beast. Also, I like that actor, so
Yeah.
but I really I thought it was an interesting take on him. He was, yeah, kind of an educated man. It made sense, and it was interesting. Yeah, I didn't have any problem with that.
Yeah, no, I thought it was kind of interesting because they made him more sort of grown up, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the movie, I feel like he's almost a child. Like he sort of needs all of this, not so much instruction, but he kind of is like overwhelmed by everything that is happening to him. Whereas I feel like the Dan Stevens version is a little bit more kind of like sardonic and sarcastic, and as you said, educated, and it's almost more of a kind of grown up take on it. But I wondered, since you are a clothing designer, and the big thing in clothing wise in that movie is Belle's yellow ball gown, and I was wondering what you thought about how they did that.
Yes. I I struggle with that dress a lot. It's one thing is it's not at all like fitting into that into the time period, or into the with the other costumes in the movie. Even it's also just very underwhelming, and the fabric choice I think was all wrong for it, because it just doesn't stand out that much. It does flow very nicely though when she's dancing. It looks very pretty when it twirls, but there are so many design flaw or like things I just don't think were good decisions at all. The whole top, like the whole bodice, it had these like things that just looked like they'd been cut out with those little curvy scissors. That's what it looked like on the top, and then it looked like it had glitter glue on it. So,
Yeah, I felt like it looked like the sad kind of like adult costume you buy off the rack at Target.
yeah, almost like that. It looked a little too cosplay-ish, like, oh, I need a dress or a prom dress or something. It just didn't work for me in the movie.
So if you had been the clothing designer for that movie, would you have just sort of recreated the dress from the movie, which is so iconic, or would you have changed it? And if so, how?
I think I would have sort of tried to take elements from the one from the animated movie, but it's not my favorite dress actually, princess dress. I don't like all the bows and stuff that much.
I agree.
But I would have translated it into the time period a little bit more, and just probably used fabrics that would have been more related to that time period, and elements, so that it didn't just it didn't look completely out of place.
Sorry, that's me singing. Yeah, that's a really good point, and that makes me wonder, which princess has your favorite dress?
I think Aurora has my favorite dress, because I really like medieval. Although I do like the dresses in Frozen. They're Norwegian ones. I don't like the Ice Queen one as much, but they're like traditional Scandinavian dresses are really pretty.
They are pretty, and I agree with you about Aurora. She has an excellent dress, and I was always sad that Belle's dress was kind of like, personally I didn't like it, because she's my favorite princess. So how do you think a Disney princess should dress? Like what are the qualities of a good Disney princess dress?
I think it should be feminine and flowy and stand out. It's funny because I don't like lots of the princesses like iconic dresses, because I don't like Snow White's very much.
Mm-hmm.
Cinderella's is okay, but I think the thing that makes them iconic is that they're all unique, and they are very girly, like, and I don't think they necessarily have to be like really girly, but just have that thing that little girls will love them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That makes total sense. And so we're almost out of time, but I just wanted to ask you if you have any sort of new art or clothing projects on your desk that you're working on now?
Well, right now I'm working on some Christmas gifts, so yeah, I don't know about those. I've been wanting to do to make sort of some vintage style like shorts, like the
Cool.
style sort of like looks like a skirt, but
Yeah.
I've been wanting to make those because I don't wear shorts very often because I don't really like them, and I thought if I made something that looked like a skirt more and was a little more feminine, I might wear it. So I want to make that, but I probably won't make that now because it's winter time.
But it would be good to have it for the summer.
Yeah.
That would be really cool. So we're out of time, but please tell everyone where they should go to find your art. And I think you also are available to make things for sale, right? So can you just tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so on Twitter my art is at Laurel and Art, and on Instagram it's at Laurel and Artistry, and you can I sell my art. You can just message me if you want art. I sell a smaller size. I don't remember exactly. Usually like a smaller size, it's like this big, I sell for like $50. So if anyone wants a painting, they can come to me. You can also commission clothing, but that'll take you a while. So don't expect like if you want something for Christmas, I can't.
Yeah, that's around the corner. Great. So I have put in the description for this video where to find you. So if anyone's watching and wants to do that, please do. And thank you so much for being on here and for chatting with me today. And I really appreciate it. So for those of you watching, please don't forget to subscribe and click the little bell, which I think will send you notifications about when we're doing things. And I will keep everyone posted about when the next episode will be. It will be soon. But thanks so much for watching Princess State of Mind. And thank you, Laurel, for being here with us.
Thank you for having me.
A pleasure. Bye.